Hi, this video is going to share with you how to run HOSA Bowl in a virtual setting. First, an overview. As with a normal conference setting, you'll do the round 1 written test and rank teams based on their average score. You set a bracket. In this case, we use 16 of the top secondary average team scores and 4 post-secondary average scores. Then we went ahead and organized the live rounds. Here's the bracket. In the bracket, you'll see that the top 16 teams are here. The numbers signify their rank in total average score. And what we did is we scheduled Zoom sessions in which a team would meet individually with 2 judges. So in our first round of Zoom sessions, we had Team 1, Team 9, 5th ranked team, the 13th seeded team, the 3rd seeded team, 11th, 7th, and 15th seeded teams. And in the second round of Zoom sessions, for round 2, we had 16 seed, 8 seed, 12, 4, 14, 6, 10, and the 2 seed. As far as the post-secondary teams, what we did was we had them start their round 2s in our what would have been our secondary final semifinal rounds. That meant that there were enough Zoom rooms open by then because of the elimination in order to make that happen. Here's an overview of the post-secondary bracket. Again, these numbers indicate seeding ranked by average team score. So this is how the rounds 2 through 5 go. Event flow, approximate time is on the right. And what we have is one team is entering a competition room with 2 judges. The judges play a pre-made video of 36 questions, about 15 seconds per question. And that made for about a 10-minute video. We play this without pausing. Team members will take turns answering questions. And the judge awards 1 point per correct answer if it's answered by the correct team member that was supposed to answer that question. Teams are not told if the answers are correct or not. Judges are simply marking the score and playing the video. And once the video is over, teams are dismissed, and you use the bracket to advance teams with the highest scores.
Let's talk pre-conference preparation for virtual HOSA Bowl. The first thing you want to do is to ensure that you have questions for rounds 2 through 5, as well as a key for these questions. You want to send both the questions and the key to the event management. That way they can review the questions and ensure that all possible correct answers are present on the key. You also want to select a moderator to make the videos for all 4 question rounds. We had one person do all the videos for all 4 rounds for National HOSA. We then mailed out flash drives with these videos to the judges. This helped to ensure video and audio quality and to overcome any internet connectivity issues. You also want to create 5 Zoom meetings. You're going to have 2 different Zoom meetings, and on the screen you can see our Zoom links here. You're going to have 2 Zoom links for round 2, the first half of the competitors and then the second half of the competitors. In a later segment, you'll see the HOSA tracker, HOSA Bowl score tracker, and you'll see how we divided the 16 teams into 2 different groups. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Zoom links, each a different link for the different rounds. You want to make sure that each of these meetings has private chat disabled. You have the waiting room enabled, and you've created 8 breakout rooms. Just to point out to you, if you have an unpaid version of Zoom, you will not have access to breakout rooms. So once the competitors have advanced from round 1 test, the online test, and you've notified them, you want to include in there a link to the round 2 Zoom for their section, whichever, if they're in part A or part B. You want to send them that link, not both. You'll also see on our script here that we've assigned different 16 judges to the 8 breakout rooms, 2 per room. And we also have one host and one co-host. These would be considered the event management team. It is helpful to use this the HOSA Bowl tracker to pre-assign judges to the breakout rooms and for keeping score. You're going to see that HOSA Bowl tracker in a later segment. You'll also want to hold practice sessions with all the judges and the event management team on Zoom. So you can get the hang of Zoom, practice putting people in breakout rooms, practice running the video, practice using the score sheet, and just become comfortable with the whole process. You'll also have a script, you'll want a script created, and the script has parts for the host to go over, for the co-host to go over, and for judges to go over. You'll want everyone to have that script ahead of time and practice using that script during the practice session in Zoom. We did not have the HOSA Bowl tracker embedded in this document for this year, but going forward we will. Again, you'll see that HOSA Bowl tracker in another segment, and we would actually have that embedded in this script.
So how do we schedule Zoom meetings? Well, what we did again was we took this bracket. Once you seed all the top 16 post-secondary teams, in our first meeting we called round 2A. We took the first one from each of these brackets, first team from each bracket, and put them into a Zoom meeting. We did breakout rooms, 8 of them, in which each team would go into a breakout room with the 2 judges. Then we did a round 2B. So seed 16, 8, 12, 4, 14, 6, 10, and 2 would then be in round 2B. Same thing would happen. They'd all come in together, then get in their breakout rooms with their 2 judges. I created a table to make this a little bit easier to understand. So here we have our 8 Zoom rooms, the breakout rooms, and then you assign 2 judges to each room. In round 2A, we have our seeds here, and they're going to be doing the round 2 questions. In what we call round 2B, here's our seedings. So those teams enter that room. They get broken out into these 8 breakout rooms for their round 2 questions. When we go across by section, we see seed 1 and seed 16. Whoever got the higher score of that round 2 would advance to round 3 here. And then same thing here. The higher score between the 9 seed and the 8 seed would advance to round 3 here. In the round 3 situation, all these teams come in, the ones who advanced, and then they get put into their individual breakout rooms. And then the winner of this room or this room then advances to round 4. So I've color-coded the advancing. Again, by the time we hit this round 4, post-secondary comes in for their second round. They only have semifinal and final. And then here's their final round. Okay. For rounds 2A and 2B, you want to set aside about 45 minutes per round. That gives you enough time to bring in your event personnel, to organize your breakout sessions, to do your orientation, to actually break everyone out into their sessions, for them to run the session questions, and then to come back, report scores. Judges do report scores back. You then advance the winners to the next bracket and send emails to those who qualify for the next round.
Let's talk about some tips and strategies to use when conducting rounds 2 through 5. First, you want to ensure that all of your personnel, the judges, show up into the Zoom meeting for round 2 that you sent to them at least 30 minutes prior in order to get set up. You're going to have them change their name to judge, room, and whatever room they've been assigned. So on the screen you can see the HOSA tracker that I talked about in a previous segment, and you can see that in breakout room 1, Jill and Loretta were assigned. So I would have them both change their name to judge room 1. That way I can assign them to the room easily. So you'll want to assign them to the breakout room before the students get there, again, that 30 minutes prior, so they can practice running the video, test their audio, practice using the score sheet, and just get comfortable with their room. Competitors are going to show up early. They're going to show up, I had some show up an hour before the event. And so I just sent them a message saying, hey, kind of hang out. We're going to let you in, about 10, 15 minutes prior to the event to get you oriented and all that stuff. You can send a note out to the holding room for them. When you pull in the students, a couple things you're going to have. You're going to have the judges exit their breakout rooms because you want the breakout rooms to be empty in order to assign everyone to those rooms, including the competitors. It's easier to do so if you have no one in those rooms. You're also going to have the competitors change their name to their school name. So you're going to have anywhere from 3 to 4 members from a high school or college. They're going to all change their name to that same school name. For example, this team from Texas, Win Ho and Vu, they belong to J. Frank Dobie High School. So they would change their name to either J. Frank Dobie or Frank Dobie. You don't have to have them include high school. This is going to make it a lot easier for you to assign them to the correct room. So I know that anyone with Frank Dobie is going to be assigned to room number 1. Okay. You're then going to, once all the students have kind of changed their names and got everyone in, you're going to have the host read the first part of that script, again, that you saw in the first part, or one of the segments previously. While the co-host is reading their part of the script, after the host is done, the host is then going to start assigning the members and judges to the breakout rooms. You wouldn't send them to the room yet, but you can assign them to the room before sending them. And you do not choose to have the breakout rooms be assigned automatically or randomly. I did that the first round, not good. Had to go back and manually fix all of it. You want to manually assign those. When the co-host is done with their part of the script, then you can send everyone to their assigned breakout room. Now, once in the breakout rooms, one judge is going to be responsible for reading their part of the script. The other judge will ask the team members to rename themselves. So they're going to not be the high school anymore. They're going to be a number 1, a 2, a 3, or 4. This is going to help keep track of the order in which the competitors are going to answer questions. Now, we found that it was easiest when the students were in the breakout room. Their pictures were ordered from top to bottom in a certain random order, and we just made the top person number 1, the next person number 2, 3, and then 4. And this just, again, helped keep track of who was supposed to answer the question in order. You also want to make sure everyone has working audio and that all team members have their camera on. You're also going to have them, each team member, pan their camera around the room to make sure there are no non-competitors present in the room, including parents, advisors, whoever is not a competitor should not be in the room. You may have more than one competitor in the same room, in the same physical room. We'll talk about that in a second. Once everyone's ready, and the script is read, and you pan around the room, make sure only competitors in the room, the judges will start the video. One judge will keep track of answers that are correct answers, and they'll mark it on the score sheet. The other judge, we found it was easier if the other judge made sure the correct team member answered. And then at the end of the round, the judges would confer and share notes on, okay, hey, they were out of order in this question, so they don't get the point, that sort of thing. So they would confer before the total score was tallied. The video should not be paused at all unless there's some sort of technical difficulty, but it should not be paused. We're not pausing the video for students to ask, hey, I didn't hear that, can you repeat that? None of that. That's why audio and visual quality are really important. When competitors are done, you're going to have them leave the meeting and not just the breakout room. Now, I did forget to mention one thing about if you have more than one competitor in a room. Here's what we did. So let's say the entire team was in a room. We had them number 1 through 4. We had them write the number on a piece of paper, and they would hold up that number when answering. So we knew which team member was answering because they're hopefully wearing masks. They were when we did our competitive event, our HOSA Bowl event. And you're not necessarily going to see who's talking. So if they hold up that number when they're answering, you keep track of their order that way. So again, when competitors are done, you're going to have them leave the meeting, not just the breakout room. We want them to completely leave the meeting. And at that point, once you have the judges are conferred and they know what the score is, they're going to go over here on the tracker on the screen you can see, and they're going to enter in that score. Let's say they got 12 correct. You would enter 12. Now, determine who's going to advance. Again, it's the number 1 seed versus the number 15 seed on that bracket. So whoever advanced 1 or 15 would move on to the next. Here you can see we did advance teams. We didn't advance teams, sorry. We did not advance teams on here, but we did on the bottom of the screen, and maybe I can make it show. You can see we had a spreadsheet or a tab for each of the rounds. I'm not going to go into them and show you them. They have scores in there. I don't want to show scores, but the teams that advanced from round 2 were entered and copied and pasted into the subsequent rounds. And again, we use the same process for keeping score. This is a live document. It's a Google document. I know it looks like an Excel spreadsheet here because I downloaded it as such, but we use it as a live Google document so that anyone involved in the event could see up-to-date live scores.
This section will go over advancing teams. We used this spreadsheet to track advancing teams, and what we did was we populated that spreadsheet with the teams that qualified, 1 through 16 seed for secondary, 1 through 4 seed for post-secondary. You record their scores after the rounds are over. For high scores for each round and bracket, you send the Zoom link for the next round to that team to a designated email. For the non-winners, you might want to send a consolation email saying that they did not advance to the next round so that they are aware not to wait for another email and enter into another Zoom room. After the final round, if you want to keep the suspense, you can not send an email after that final round and keep it a surprise at the awards session. We're going to pop out now to the tracker that we used. So we used a multi-page spreadsheet. I went ahead and populated the seeds here for you, so you can just put the team name or school there. For us, because we were doing the ILC, we put their state, last names of team members, and of course their team IDs, what room they were assigned to, and the judges and the score. Now this is a lot of information. You don't necessarily need to include all this information, but we wanted to make sure that everything was on this one sheet as well, and that redundancy helped to make sure that everything was in line. For round 3, we have this sheet, so you copy and paste the winners from each of those brackets from the previous round here. Record the scores. The winners from those brackets move on to the next round. And again, this is where post-secondary comes in. So now we've still got 8 Zoom rooms, 4 here and 4 here. Technically the semifinal rounds for each. And then the final round, you'll declare the winner after this round. So we have our round between first and second place, and then of course third and fourth place. Congratulations! You can now run HOSA Bowl.